It's 4th of July weekend. Do you know where your furry is? Probably in Pittsburgh, which I'm not in right now. So, hope you all are enjoying your Anthrocon. 20 years, guys. 20 years. Congratulations to Anthrocon, the board, and everyone else. Kage and everyone, especially the volunteers and everyone else who works under them. 20 years is a long time, guys. It's a long time. We're all old now. We're old people. We're old fogies. All right. It's one of the first big cons in the East, and still the biggest con in the world for at least a few more years. I'm pretty sure they got a few years left on their top of the chain thing. Maybe it'll surprise me and it'll be even more longer than that. Maybe statistics can only predict so much. But to get as far as they've gotten, despite all the trials and tribulations that they've had to go through, they made it 20 years, and that deserves a round of applause from everyone. I think I'd clap louder, but my hands seem padded for some reason. It's hard to clap when you're a furry thing. Now it's very useful if you're going to be there during this weekend. It's very useful for the furry dance competitions to be wearing a fursuit, and I'll tell you why. Is because they go every time someone comes in, they go, give them a round of applause, and you go, and then they start, and then they talk a little bit, and then they're like, the guy gets done, it's like, give him a round of applause, and it's like, okay, and then by the time they get through like 20 dancers, what I'm saying is your hands are raw, all right? I've watched furry dance competitions without fur gloves on, and your hands get pretty raw by the end of it. Every time they watch you clap, it's like, what do you guys think? And then they're trying to rile the crowd up, but it's like, man, we just want to get to the dancers. Can we get to the dancers, please? God, my hands can't take it anymore, guys. My hands. Ow, 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 ow. And this makes it so much better because it's like I don't have to do... Anyways, strange tangent aside, I guess I'm feeling a little out of place, It's like, do you ever feel that feeling that's like, I should be somewhere else right now. I shouldn't be sitting on my arse in my house. What's wrong with me? Sitting in my mortgage prison. What's wrong with you? What's wrong with you, Roo? What's wrong with you? You should be out there, where the sun is shining and the birds are singing, but you're sitting in here talking to a video camera. But conventions are tough. They're a tough thing to handle, even for somebody who's attending. They're quite exhausting. So running a thing, man, I would have no idea, not even a clue. So, and speaking of little experience and talking about things like community and stuff like that, the topic this week actually isn't going to be about Anthrocon or conventions, because let me talk about something else real quick, because. Just so I don't think about the fact that I'm not in Pittsburgh right now. But what we will talk about, okay, is we're going to talk about two other communities this week, real quick. The furry fandom is diverse in that it has people who are interested in a lot of things. If you go to a furry convention, actually very diverse. There's a lot of talented women. There's a lot of there's a lot of performers in fursuit who are black. It seems like statistically there are a lot of white guys in the community, but there's a lot of, like, if you go to a convention, you can hardly tell, because to me, like, when I go to a convention, I'm always surprised to see how many people of other races, ethnicities, religions, and women, and gender. There is some diversity there. And it seemed like it's like when you visually see it, it's like you can't believe the statistics of that it's like 80% white men or something like that. Like I can't remember the statistic off the top of my head, but when you look at it at a convention, it's like it just seems more diverse there, and I don't know why. But anyways, back on the tangent, coming back to the topic at hand. They have diverse interests too. Like, and this is my big critique of something called the geek hierarchy chart. And that there was like, the sports nerds are up at the top, and then you have your statistic guys, and then you have gamers, and then you have like RPers, and then you have like LARPers, and then like at the very, 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 very bottom, you have the furry fandom. Actually, there was a shirt, and I'm actually wearing it under this right now, ironically, that had like that Bucktown Tiger made with the geek hierarchy, and basically it says no, rep your fandom, and it was like it had a paw at the bottom, basically make kind of a play on that whole hierarchy idea. But basically, when I discuss things with furry's not the only thing they're usually interested in. Usually, like, they have that furry part, but I know there's some furries who are into that sports nerdy thing. So it's like, where do they fall on this chart? Does furry like eclipse everything else that they happen to be? If they're a LARPer and a furry, well, they're just a furry. You know what I mean? Like, if they're a sports nerd and they're a furry, is the furry overlapped? I mean, come on, Kyle Gold is pretty popular. I mean, but he's obviously somewhat into sports. He writes about them all the time. I mean, come on. Speaking of Kyle Gold, let's go talk about writing. And this is what the topic was actually going to be about, but I'm rambling because I'm not at Pittsburgh. So, in essence, what I was going to talk about is there was something called the Anthrocon. The Fur Planet had basically said, "Oh, we're releasing like 20 publications." Like, Fur Planet's one of the 3 big furry publishers out there. There's Rabbit Valley. There's Fur Planet. There's Sofa Wolf. I think the third one is. But they all know each other. It's kind of nichey. But there's like 3 main competitors out there, and this one is like, "Oh man, we're releasing like 24 things this Anthrocon." And to me, like, the Furry Writers Guild has actually improved a lot since I became a member. No, around the time when I became a member, it just happened to be like people are coming in more and more, and it's becoming more of a resource, and I've seen it grow as a community, and it's actually very nice. But at this point, but there's also like this whole like thing of failure as well, and the failure is that like they tried this project called Glimpse of Anthropomorphic. What's it called? GLAD? See, I can't even remember the name. No, it's called GOAL. A Glimpse of Anthropomorphic Literature. I think that was what it was called. Yeah, it took me a little bit. I was like, GOAL? Yeah, GOAL. Yeah, GOAL. Glimpse of Anthropomorphic Literature. They pretty much gave out the first episode, like they were like little blurbs, that they were little written things written by furries, like little very short stories, some review content, and advertising. And the advertising was supposed to be the main contribution of how they got paid for, but it was also like a paid kind of magazine. That would be like 99 cents a piece every quarter. Like, it was like a quarterly release. Every 3 months they would release a new one. The first one, as a trial, they kind of gave away for free, and then they had 2, and now they're coming out with their third. But even as they reach their third, they're like, well, it's not viable. Like we're not getting enough people interested in it in order to keep it going. So, like, these 2 ideas, these 2 things kind of combined in my mind, and along with another thing, and that was I did a NonFiction panel in the writing track at Furthermore. Hey, guess how many people I had show up? 0? No. It wasn't that bad. It wasn't like that one panel about drama or something what was it, Silver, whoever did that way back then. The guy of Watch Your Step. They did like this panel on drama, and like it was rumored no one showed up, but it's like, how do you know no one showed up? You were there, weren't you? It's like, how do you know when no one shows up? Unless the panelists went, well, no one showed up, no one's going to know. You know what I mean? Or maybe the person in charge of the panel was there or something. But then they wouldn't say anything because that's kind of a disclosure thing. So I don't really believe that rumor that no one showed up. But yeah, there were some people who showed up. There was like 4. Some people, like, one doesn't really count because I was at the convention with them and I brought them to the convention, so that doesn't really count, I guess. It counts. So there's 4. So long story short, 4 people showed up. And one of them was not really a writer, not really a thing, but she was interested in what I had to say. And what I found out was she said something that really stuck with me. And it's like, well, I'm not really a writer per se, so I didn't really, she's like, I wanted to, learn like I was here just because there's nothing really else going on Sunday morning, and I really wanted to go to a panel, but I'm not a writer. And I said, well, that's great, because, talking about nonfiction doesn't really have to be, it doesn't really have to focus on the writing aspect of it. I kind of went a little bit into it because, it's the writing, it was part of the writing track. And that kind of stuck with me in the fact that it's like we talk about the Furry Writers Guild. And it's called the Furry Writers Guild. You know what I mean? It's sort of like how my panel of nonfiction and the fandom was within the writers track. So within the context, people are like, well, if I'm not really I'm not really a writer. I don't want to really write about nonfiction. I don't really write about nonfiction. No, everyone does. They make blogs. That's what blogs are, guys. Y'all write nonfiction. Y'all hypocrites. But, their assumption that it was going to be purely focused on the writing aspects instead of like talking about nonfiction and its relation in sociological standpoints, which I did kind of cover a little bit as well, no one showed up. So it was kind of, was it my fault for putting it in the writer's track? Maybe. Or maybe I was like, maybe I'd had different expectations. I don't know. So that is in essence, the problem here. That is, in my mind, that issue kind of stems over to what I'm seeing, why goal failed. And in my mind, that is it might be a reason why. Because we've created this great resource, and we've created this wonderful resource where content creators and writers can go, well, we can use you guys as a resource. We're ready, we're rating content, we're creating content. And now, as evidenced kind of in my mind by this whole tweet about, we're releasing 24 things in 2016 at Anthrocon, it's like, that's a lot of content. If that's $20 a piece, that's $400 out of your pocket just buying the new releases at one kiosk. If you buy every new thing at the Fur Planet thing and they cost $20 a piece, that's $400 out of your pocket. That's a lot of content, guys. That's a lot of content for a niche thing. So right now we have a lot of content. What we don't have is consumers, right? So to me, the big issue right now is readers. We need furry readers. If we want to continue to grow writing as a thing, then we need more furry readers. Now, of course, as the asterisk, only about 5 of those 24 things being released is purely written. Everything else is comic and art books and stuff like that. So there is a little bit of that going on. So now all their content is purely written works. They got to pay the bills, guys. Come on. With something. Art is the furry's bread and butter. I mean, even me as a writer's got to say that. We got to admit that. It's like, there are certain strengths to a visual part of the medium. As I said in the last video about flags, human beings are visual species. They like visual things. They like putting colors on things. So, that being said, there's a certain draw to drawings that you can't really get in the written works, especially since written works are... So words are basically written art form that basically has more complex meaning. Like, we're condensing complex meaning into a smaller space. They say a picture is worth 1,000 words. It's like, not really anymore. Like, back when Moby Dick days maybe, but today, like, I can write a scene in 1,000 words. I can write an entire scene in 1,000 words, and one person's visual brain will paint out the rest of the details of like an animation. I can make it, in essence, I can make a movie, a small scene in a movie for 1,000 words, not just a picture. Like, words are very, very condensed, but unfortunately they're very, very specific. They're based on grammar rules. They're based on a lot of rules that are very region specific and stuff like that. So language in itself is it is a visual medium, but it's a condensed sort of visual medium that's very specific to a very set of skills of learning. So we have, but we want more readers in essence. So how do you create more readers? And it's like the Furry Writers Guild will very often we say, well, our forums are not just for writers, they're for readers too. But I think a lot of that goes in one ear and out the other, because if you're following the Furry Writers Guild, you're probably a writer. You know what I mean? And a name is everything. Even though my panel wasn't about furry writing, it was about or specifically it wasn't about writing nonfiction. It was about sort of a little bit of writing nonfiction, a little bit of social context of nonfiction, and why it should be important to the fandom, and why it is growing in importance in the fandom, as we're starting to see. And it is growing, and I've seen more and more stuff for it over the course of the years. To me, like, the only direction you can go is if you had a Furry Readers Guild. Like, if you had some sort of guild that made sure that we have individuals who are, like, readers, and we should make them proud to be readers. We should be giving them a sense of social identity. We should be giving them a sense of, of being proud to be a furry reader. You know what I mean? Because people will say, well, because readers typically don't do that whole social cliquey thing, but we should label them to do it, because like all these furries talk about their artists, and it's like they talk about it prolifically, and they like to talk about them, and we should be doing the same thing for readers in my mind. And the only way to really do that in my mind is to try to encourage groups to become furry reading groups, stuff like that. And the writers should kind of be on board with it, but they shouldn't get too involved. Like, don't get so involved that, you're like the furry reader should feel free to express their opinions about furry artwork or furry written work without the fear of the author coming down from on high going and talking with them about their own work, because that makes people intimidated. You know what I mean? That you get, when people talk about or J.K. Rowling's work, they're not usually sitting in the same room with J.K. Rowling she goes, yeah, tell me more about what you think about my Harry Potter books. She's not doing that, because that makes people uncomfortable. So we should let the readers be readers and just go about their reading and discussing a book. Have a book of the month, and actually have people, give the people a goal of reading the book, and then have a chat about the book. How we have for the Furry Writers Guild, what they basically do is they go in and they type. They have these little meetings every week, and they talk about a particular topic, and they kind of talk about basically, what their goals are and stuff like that. Having something like that for readers would be very useful. Having something like, well, here's the book that we want this month, or that we're going to talk about this month in this month's chat. Go ahead and read that book, and we'll talk about it. We'll have the furry readers talk about it, and then after that hour of talk, maybe then we bring in the author and he can answer questions or do something like that. Make it cool, Make it kind of a niche, kind of a club, kind of a thing. Offer things. Offer an experience. You know what I mean? For furry readers, and I think that would influence people to set goals in reading and do things like that, because they want to be part of the discussion. They want to be, they want to be part of the reading community. So that is that I think is going to be it. I guess I'll do a part 2 this time. I'm here all weekend, right? So I guess I'll put out more videos in the future. So we talked about the writing skill. We talked a little bit about Anthrocon. And I'll push. I was going to talk about another thing that opened up. I'll give it a little bit of a... heck with it. You wanted to stay here 25 minutes, right? So let's move on. The next topic I want to talk about is gaming forever. Gaming forever, as I said, people are interested in video games. If they're interested in video games and they're furries, which one wins out? Video games or furries? I guess if furry overrides everything, you are at the bottom of the chart, sir. And the hierarchy's so full of nonsense. Anyways, But basically, you have the Gaming Forever reopened its doors recently after an overhaul. But from my understanding, they didn't have much success the first time around, and I believe that is the case in a similar manner to the whole issue that the whole goal had, and that is not there. I think there was not enough emphasis on the furry community for Gaming Forever. I recall when Gaming Forever first opened its doors, they said, well, we want to be like Kotaku and things like that. And even back then, I was kind of hesitant, and I said, if you want to, like, if you want to be Kotaku, furries can just read Kotaku. You know, that's the thing about being furry. It's like, if you're not providing something that doesn't provide the sense of identity, in the sense, like, if you're not making something that furry fans want to, you know, furry fans can join groups outside the furry thing. And that's kind of its biggest challenge. That's the biggest challenge of a thing like Gaming Forever. They want to kind of be a general gaming, like, gamer furs sort of hangout. And I really hope they are successful, because gaming is a social experience, and I kind of figured that out as I've been living alone by myself for 10 years now-ish. Like, and I've kind of lost sight of gaming, and one of the big reasons is because despite, you know, sharing things over the internet, there's still not that social interaction. Like, I'll make a Mario level and, you know, share it over the internet. I even got on a top 10 list on YouTube. Here's a link. I'm next to Egoraptor. I was nerding out. I was like, oh man, this is exciting. What was I called it, the Mario Maker level. I'll also post a link to that Mario Maker level below. It's called the Forbidden Switch. And I ended up, and I was like, oh, what the heck? I'll just comment on this guy's thing and, you know, send him that one, because that was my best one, I thought, at the time. And he had like 10 more creative Mario Maker levels, and I made it on there. I was like, yeah, because I was like, yeah, I was so stoked, especially following Aaron Hansen's Spiny Suffocation one. That was great. And it's those moments, it's like you feel like you're part of a community outside yourself, that it's like, man, I just made a little bit of a splash in this huge pond of a world. And, you know, furries, like, we like to have our small little community, and we like to make, you know, contributions. But we can make contributions outside of our community. If, you know, like, oh, if we want to hang out on Kotaku, we can do that. I mean, there's nothing stopping us from doing it. We're not probably going to be fully enveloped in our furry identity. But I think that's why emphasizing, you know, feeling free to express your full furry identity is important to a furry community. And everything else comes second. So to me, I did go to their webpage really quick, and I did see that center thing said community, and I clicked on it, and I saw, like, Destiny furs and, you know, Overwatch furs. That's good. That's a good thing, because if they emphasize those groups, and they get the word out on those groups, and they expand those groups out, then that's going to be their strength, I think. That will be the strength. Reviews and everything else, you know, And I kind of feel like a jerkish, because I've done furry game reviews for Flayra, and I never really, you know, and people come to Flayra for those sometimes, and, you know, and it's like, maybe I should cross-post. Like, if I do a furry game review, I should cross-post it to them as well. You know, allow them to have it too, because I would like to see the community succeed. If not for reviews, but for the sake of having a gaming community that can be focused on gaming. And I really think that, I really hope that they increase, that they succeed this time. And I really think an emphasis on community will succeed. And I think an emphasis on community has really been the reason that the fandom has been expanding over these past decades. And once again, for those out in Pittsburgh, have a great convention, and see you on the other side. If you watch this video after the convention, you lucky, lucky jerks. No, I'm good. I'm red, I'm not green. I'm not green, man. I'm a red Roo. Don't be green. Don't be green. No envy. No envy, son. But hope you guys have a good convention. I hope this video was helpful. And hey, this was about the fandom this time. Hopefully we can keep it that way for a few weeks. No drama, guys. No political dramas. I'm still gonna do I'm still probably gonna do one non-furry videos in the future as well, just as a warning. But fandom ones, I think will be my apple pie. I hope that it's my main driving stay, and that's what it is. And so I'm glad that you sat with me for another half hour, 25 minutes. Gotta get the hop out of here, man. Have a good day, guys. I said have a good day, guys. Wow, video.